Hey, welcome back to Super Sons. I'm Jake, and as always, I'm here with my brother Dan. Dan, say hi.
Hi, that was very, very aggressive.
You mean classic? I told you it was gonna be classic, and I said welcome back. And Dan, you want to welcome back somebody?
Yes, we have our first two-timer, Jordan Clark. He's back, baby.
I'm back. Yeah, I feel like is there like a SNL like jacket or something? Say, like a two times club.
I didn't know if that was too like obscure of a reference, but you get the two timers and you get the jacket.
Yes.
It's you, John Goodman, Chevy Chase. Everyone's hanging out in our back room.
I love it.
That's what everyone wants to do. Hang out with Chevy Chase.
The worst.
Yeah. That's the new goal.
Alec Baldwin is another big time SNL host.
Mm-hmm.
Natalie Portman, she did too.
Yeah.
So Jordan is actually writing 2 issues of Aquaman, issues 62 and 63.
Mm-hmm.
They are coming out in August. The first one will drop on August 18th, which is my birthday. And Jordan, thank you for coming back. Very excited.
Oh, of course. I mean, I had a lot of fun last time. So thank you for having me back. And yeah, I'm excited to talk some Aqualad tonight.
Yeah, so we decided not to do just a regular interview as Jordan is an honorary Super Son. We're going to do it in 2 parts. The first part, we're actually going to talk about Aqualad. And then in the second part, we've got a couple questions for Jordan. So, Jake, do you want to take away who created Aqualad?
All right, so this Aqualad, as in Jackson Hyde, was created by Brandon Vitti, Greg Weisman, and Phil Bourassa? How do you pronounce that?
Yeah, Phil Bourassa.
Yeah.
And that was for the Young Justice cartoon, and his name was... Oh, no. For Young Justice, his name was Calderon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they created him for Young Justice, but he actually appeared first in Brightest Day, which was written by... So he was adapted for the comics by Jeff Johns and Ivan Reyes. And they changed his name from Calderon to Jackson Hyde. And... Jordan, when did he first... what was his first appearance?
So his first appearance was, to my knowledge, in Brightest Day, which was one of the many Jeff Johns Green Lantern kind of events during that time. And it was right before the New 52 kind of kicked off. So it was kind of strange because like he was introduced in this kind of large storyline, and there is a lot of interesting things going on with him being introduced as Black Manta's son, as well as him having some lineage to Zebul, and them kind of building up big things. And then New 52 happened, and he just wasn't around anymore. But that was kind of his first big, because like you guys were saying, he was created to be in the Young Justice cartoon, but cartoons obviously take a little bit of time to get in production, so they were introducing him first in the comics, and then he made that transition over to the Young Justice cartoon.
I honestly had no idea like this was how it happened. I remember reading Brightest Day, the issue when it came out, way back in August of 2010, which is kind of funny that he's getting his first headlining story in his 10-year anniversary month.
Yeah.
I just didn't realize that he was actually created for Young Justice.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, just because they didn't do the same things. Because in Young Justice, he is Atlantean and has a lot of Atlantean lineage, and in the comics, he's Black Manta's son, and he's from Zebul in various ways throughout the history. So, yeah, I mean, both are great. I like both iterations a lot, but it is kind of a curious introduction.
Yeah, because as you said, he kind of just vanished for a long time, and then he came back in Rebirth, which was a great run with him and Teen Titans. I actually read that recently. So, as we did touch on, his mother is a Zebelian, and his father is Black Manta, which is one of my all-time favorite dynamics. Like, I think that's so cool that he's Aquaman's sidekick, but his dad is Aquaman's nemesis.
Yeah, and they have There's a few other like Stephanie Brown's father is also a supervillain.
Blue Master.
Yeah.
And then there's Damian Wayne.
Yeah.
He's not the supervillain?
No, the other way around. His mom's a eco-terrorist, assassin.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, Talia's badass. But yeah, it's so cool that, like, I mean, the other people have it, but they don't have it to the point where, like, he's not the Joker's kid or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's so much I want to say entanglement because it's the word of the moment, but not only is he Black Manta's son, but then the history of Aquaman and Black Manta, where Aquaman kills Black Manta's father. So there's a lot of just weird mingling between those two families, and it's kind of an interesting dynamic of him not only being aligned with Aquaman and against his father, but also just like not really ever having that opportunity to get to know anybody else in his family, because he can't go back to Zebel because his mom is in various iterations in Brightest Day. I mean, like, Zebel kidnapped his parents and were experimenting on them, so like that's not a place you want to go and visit. And in the newest iteration, his mom is Zebellian and kind of helps Black Manta in some ways, and realizes, you know, what he's up to, so then escapes from him. But like, she's banished from Zebel, so like can't really interact with anybody on his mom's side, but also like your dad's Black Manta, so don't really want to get to know anybody on that side either. So he's kind of isolated in that way, where he doesn't really have that familial connection.
I didn't even make that connection because, like, I was thinking about how he has that Aquaman feeling of caught between two worlds, but he really doesn't have a world of his own because he can't grow closer to either side.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, Aquaman does his best, you know, to kind of help, but it is a very unique situation for him, just because, you know, Aquaman was at least born on the surface, so like this has always been the world that he knows. Jackson was born on the surface too, but like, you know, he doesn't really have anybody on either side to kind of help him get to know, you know, his family and his roots. So he's kind of been figuring it out mostly on his mom's there, you know, and she's doing a great job raising him, but it's a very...
Is there an issue of after the Lazarus contract in Titans and Teen Titans where Garth was supposed to like help him with something?
Yeah, I think, you know, Garth at that point kind of says you're Aqualad now, and gives him the not only the thumbs up to kind of take over the mantle, but is encouraging him to, you know, maybe see Aquaman and see what that's like, and kind of help him out. But yeah, I mean, even in the superhero world, you know, he's kind of been in and out. He was a Teen Titan and then wasn't a Teen Titan, and then you know, is now finally, you know, united with Aquaman and kind of getting that tutelage. But it is, yeah, I mean, he's in a kind of an interesting place because he can't really just say, hey, you know, I am a hero in the way that a lot of other heroes are, because either they are just straight connected to somebody in the way that, you know, a Robin is or a Kid Flash is, you know, they don't have that dark cloud hanging over them with their father being a supervillain. And not just, you know, because with Stephanie Brown and Clue Master, it's like, Clue Master, like, I mean, he's, you know, he's bad, but like Black Manta is like, you know, Legion of Doom.
Manta, you know, did some bad things to Aquaman.
I other than the killing of the kid, I always think about, I think it is in Brightest Day when Black Manta finds out that Aquaman is alive. He has been working in a fish shop and he just jumps over the counter and just kills everybody.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, all right.
crazy. He's a crazy man.
Yeah.
I mean, he's Jackson. I think after that Teen Titans crossover, I think was on his way to kind of finding himself as his own kind of hero, because it is, he's Garth has been Aqualad, forever, up until this point. And his relationship with Aquaman is also interesting. But Jackson, I think, is a little different in that, he is definitely looking to make his own way. He wants to learn everything he can from Aquaman, but he's not necessarily interested in being Aqualad forever. I think he is kind of interested in becoming his own hero. But he definitely wants that support and that teaching from both Garth and from Aquaman.
And so he actually he has similar powers to Aquaman, but he doesn't have the whole talking to fish thing. He actually has the hydrokinesis and electrokinesis.
Yes.
Isn't he also technically amphibian, because every time he touches water, his body has a physical change? Or was that just the pre-New 52?
I think it's because he's got the Zebellian DNA, similar to Aquaman having the Atlantean DNA. So in some instances they have the weird gills. Like in Brightest Day, he did have the gills on his neck. And I think in Young Justice he also has the gills on his neck.
Mm-hmm. He's also got the webbed hands.
Yeah. In the current version, he's just kind of similar Aquaman physiology, where he can just breathe underwater, however that is done.
It just happens.
Yeah, well, because I mean, Mera also doesn't have gills, and other Zebellians and Atlanteans kind of don't necessarily all have the gills. I think it's a cool look, but it is kind of, it can be unsettling, I guess.
Yeah, imagine swimming in at a pool party and you're like, oh, those are gills. But he can control water, and he also gets at one point, I know in the comics, Damian gives him the backpack to be able to control his hydrokinesis, so he can make swords and stuff.
Yeah, he's got the water bearers, and because in Young Justice, it's kind of talked about as Atlantean magic and sorcery, the controlling of water in that way. In the comics, it's more in line with the aquakinesis that Mera has, which is in water. Obviously, she can control the water and all that, but also out of water, she can suck all the water out of your body. And just any water, she can control it in any way. And he's nowhere close to that level of power, because she is one of the most powerful aquakinetics there is. But he also has the electrokinesis, which can be interesting used underwater, because I mean, you use it the wrong way, you just electrocute everybody. So it's another thing.
Jellyfishing around, man.
Yeah, I think he's learning how to control both. Because it is interesting to see, when you see Young Justice, it's kind of like the Green Lantern ring, where he can kind of form all different constructs. Obviously, maybe not as intricate as a Green Lantern ring, but it's got the hard water, the denseness of it, and whatever you want, all kinds of weapons. And I think I've seen him at least in the cartoon, make shields, make swords, make projectiles, all kinds of cool stuff.
I know you didn't watch season 3, but do you know his path? Do you know what Aqualad becomes?
Oh yeah, he becomes Aquaman. Yeah,
I didn't want to spoil it for you. Yeah, I think that was the coolest part of season 3 for me, is seeing him get to step into the shoes of Aquaman, who, didn't really want to be Aquaman in the first place, who eventually became the king.
Yeah, Aquaman's got a weird dynamic, only probably similar to Black Panther and Namor in that, and why am I forgetting? Black Bolt.
Doctor Doom.
Well, Doctor Doom's got his. Doctor Doom never really wants to not be.
Yeah, the leader.
I mean, sometimes Doctor Doom wants to wear his mask, and sometimes he doesn't. And sometimes Aquaman wants to have a beard, sometimes he doesn't.
Or a hook hand.
That's about the only parallels there.
Yeah. Well, I think Aquaman definitely is always caught between not only two worlds, but also just that responsibility of am I a superhero? Am I a royal? Am I here for the interest of Atlantis, or am I trying to build a bridge between the two worlds, or what do I really want to do? And I think it's a lot to be a diplomat and be superhero, because sometimes your actions aren't just your actions, and there's a lot of stuff that you have to kind of take into account.
So I had a question off the top of my head. As we're talking about Aquaman, he's caught between those two worlds, and Jackson really doesn't have those two worlds to begin with. He doesn't have somewhere to go. Do you think he defines himself through his hero work? Like, is being a hero who he is?
I think it's definitely who he aspires to be, because when you see him in the comics, originally when he comes back, he's on Rebirth, and he kind of has like a 1-page, couple panel introduction, and then when he comes back in Teen Titans, he's definitely, because his mother Lucia, not very forthcoming about a lot of things, and he's got these powers and abilities that he has no idea where they come from and what they mean, but he sees the Teen Titans and he says, oh, like that I can do that. That looks like something that, not even like I can do that, like that's easy, but like I should be doing that because I can help and I have these abilities. And then, learning that his father is Black Manta is definitely something that I think has driven him more and more to try his best to A, not go down that path, but B, try to be the best person that he can be. And so not having some of the things that Aquaman has, in terms of, the royalty, but also like that connection to, either of those worlds. I think, being a hero is something that's important to him. And I think he also recognizes, being a young gay Black man, the power that him, standing out, being a hero, and doing good in the world, that the kind of power that can have as well. So I think he's definitely driven to be the best person that he can be. And obviously he's very young and there will be stumbling blocks along the way. But I would agree that being a hero is something that is kind of at the core of who he is, but also who he wants to eventually become.
Wow. I'm always so impressed when people just talk like that, and they just have these beautiful, elegant, kind of speeches they just come out.
Yeah, I'm doing my best.
So, Aqualad has. So your stories are like kind of the first headlining things that Aqualad's had in the ongoing universe.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to drop a few other things that people could check out before they got to read your story, just in case they wanted to get to know the character a little bit.
For sure.
They can read the rest of the Kelly Sue DeConnick run of Aquaman so far. But there's also Young Justice, as we've talked about, which is on DC Universe. There's also a young adult original graphic novel called You Brought Me the Ocean, which deals with Aqualad and him dating and romance and things like that. There's also a really good issue of Aquaman Deep Dives. It's issue number 4, which is one of the digital firsts that DC was doing when Diamond wasn't printing comics. And that's a digital first, and you can get that on Comixology. He actually has a lot of Black Manta stuff in there. And then the Teen Titans Rebirth series is also a good run to check out.
Yeah, definitely.
So, with that, we will move on to the questions. Normally, the last 2 episodes we've done like a break between, and I just sing a song, but I don't have a song to sing for you today. I didn't prep one. Last time I sang Full House,
Okay.
and I forgot the words. So
Okay. You should see if you can drop in the Aquaman theme song from the cartoon.
Aquaman.
You mean Aquaman?
Yeah, Aquaman. The Super Friends way he said his name.
Aquaman.
Aquaman. But the whoop, 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 I love that is stuck and I used it in the movie. Like it's such an odd sound. It's like imagine being underwater, like just having a day at the beach and all you hear is whoop, 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 whoop.
I imagine it's kind of like a dog whistle, right? Where only fish can hear.
Oh,
and
probably.
Well,
it's everybody else. He's just holding his hand to his forehead.
Sonar noise, Dan?
You're telling me you can't hear sonar?
No, you just so I can hear sonar. I'm a bat.
Jordan,
I'm a bat man.
You have you're a man bat. You have been on the show before, and you know we had the hard-hitting question about the sandwiches. And today I had to dig deep inside myself because you took the question, you took the opener. But I got one for you.
Okay.
What's been your go-to quarantine snack?
So this is tricky because when everything first started, I had kind of been like grocery shopping on a need basis, just because the hours that I was working for my day job were pretty long. So I would try not to get like a lot of food for home because I was like, I don't want to get a bunch of stuff and then not eat it. So kind of just getting, this is what I need for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, etc. But now that I've been at home, it's kind of like, oh, like I can get whatever, but also like I should get X amount of food to kind of sustain me through the day. So the first week I got like 2 boxes of Cheez-Its and I was like, this is going to last me, I assumed 2 weeks, and like I ate a box in a day and I was like, oh no.
That's how it goes.
So I've been three things I've kind of been going to pretty often. Cheez-Its, obviously.
Regular?
Kind of. They have more than I remember. Because they have like the extra toasty ones, which is kind of I don't know how I feel about it, because the joy of getting like the rare toasty one and the regular box of Cheez-Its is kind of like, oh, delicious. But then when the whole box is that, it's kind of like, it's not bad, but it kind of loses the specialness of it. Some of the other ones I've seen, but have not been bold enough to try. So typically just the regular one. My friend sent me some special Pringles over the weekend. One of them is sweet corn, which is it is sweet corn. It's weird because any chip that tastes like another food always throws me off, because obviously you're
going expecting one thing, but you get another.
But they're getting more accurate, which is terrifying, because
that is terrifying.
Yeah, it's not like
now you're making me think of that.
Yeah, it's not just like, oh, this reminds me of a hamburger or a pizza. It's like, this tastes almost like pizza, but like it's a chip. And so I'm not quite sure what's going on at the Utz factory or wherever else they're making these chips.
Mr. Pringle is doing genetic modifications.
But there's the sweet corn one, and then there was the Wendy's Baconator one.
How is that?
So I think what disturbs me the most about these Pringles is that they taste like 2 meats, which is like, usually there's one meat associated with meat flavored chips.
Okay.
But this tastes like bacon and a burger and whatever. I mean, I'm trying to look. I never had a Baconator before, so I'm just trying to look at the picture and
Imagine
figure
what
out
it would taste
what's in
like.
it. Yeah, I think the thing about it, now that I'm remembering the taste of the chip, is that it has a strong bacon taste. It has a strong patty taste. There's a hint of cheese, but there's no bun, and so it's like eating a hamburger without the bun. I'm assuming a Baconator has sauce, maybe vegetables of some kind.
I don't think it has vegetables. I'll be completely honest with you.
But you guys got to remember, fresh, never frozen.
Very true, very true. And I don't want Wendy's coming at me on Twitter. So
Yeah, I would not want to make them mad.
Wendy's SmackDown.
Did you see they did a Wendy's? Was it a mixtape or a diss track tape?
They did a diss track, and then somebody else. Oh my god. Somebody else did a mixtape. Maybe
Steakums.
Maybe
Steakums
it was
has social media.
It was something very bizarre though that I was just like, all right. I mean, these are all food related raps that I. Congratulations, I guess. But to answer your original question, it's Cheez-Its. Cheez-Its are my number one. I like the blood orange San Pellegrino. I've been getting those.
Oh, yeah.
And then trying to get some fruits here and there, whether it's bananas or some apples or some watermelon. Trying to eat. Yeah, I'm trying to eat healthier. I think that's the main key.
So we went to the grocery store the other day, and I'm kind of like the toddler you have to like yank the leash back on, because if I get my hands on something, it's mine. Yeah. So I got the biggest watermelon that they had, and then I got home and I was like, oh shit, I don't know how to carve a watermelon. Like, which way do I go about this? Let me tell you what, it was a big juicy mess. Delicious though, 100% delicious. So we actually have a question from someone on Twitter @QueerlyNerd. They asked, Aqualad is the first queer legacy character of an A-list hero, but he hasn't had the spotlight until now. Why do you think this happened, and why do you think this is the right move to change this?
It's interesting because, in comics in general, there's been general resistance to characters assuming, these kind of A-list mantles, whether it was Jane Foster becoming Thor for a little while, or whether it was, Sam becoming Captain America for a while. Even when Dick Grayson became Batman for a little bit, I think there was. And the weird thing about it was a lot of the times those characters weren't even gone. It wasn't like they killed somebody and replaced them. It was just like they just weren't whatever that mantle was for a little bit. And, the cyclical nature of comics, everything kind of comes back. So everybody kind of, is dead or, gives up the mantle or whatever, loses their powers. And then eventually it all, resets to zero. But in terms of Aqualad, I think a couple of things. One, in general, in media, it's been interesting in quarantine kind of going back watching things from the 80s and the 90s. I was born in 88, so like a lot of the stuff in the 90s I enjoyed it and have fond memories of it, but like a lot of those bigger movies, like I didn't know what was happening. I just kind of watched, but you go back and watch it now and like almost every one of them has a gay joke of some kind. And it is jarring to see not only just how casual it was, but also like it was in it was in like kids movies and like action movies and comedy. Like it was just pervasive throughout everything. And I think luckily just in general our attitudes toward the LGBTQ community, and obviously the internet too. It being kind of a somewhat equalizing force, allowing people from the LGBTQ community to have a voice of their own, but also to be able to create content of their own, and have that dispersed on a larger scale. I think definitely has helped. But there's generally a push in terms of all kinds of minorities, whether it's queer characters, whether it's Black, Latinx, Asian, Indigenous, all kinds of not only having those stories be pushed more, but having them be pushed on a bigger scale and a bigger level. So as far as Jackson and Aqualad goes, I think Kelly Sue made the call to bring him into the world again, and kind of give him a bigger platform here. And I feel very fortunate to be able to tell this story, because I think Jackson is really an amazing character, and the kind of character that I think can continue to grow, the comics audience in a bigger and better way, because it allows people who maybe haven't felt very welcome in the world of comics to not only have somebody who looks like them and comes from a similar community, but also tell stories that matter to them, and can kind of reflect the world that they know and live in. So I feel with anything you can say, man, it's crazy that this hasn't already happened. That this hasn't already been a thing, and there haven't already been not just Jackson in particular, but all kinds of characters from all kinds of backgrounds. But I feel like what a year 2020 is. Like there's a lot of things going on.
2020.
Yeah, and I have tried to remain as positive as possible and kind of latch on to, some of the positive things. And one of those things has been just more representation, whether it is for the LGBTQ community and the Black community, Latinx, Indigenous, all the way down the line. So, I think hopefully this is just one in a long line of more diverse characters, being able to tell more diverse stories, at a superhero level, but also just in media in general.
Yeah, during all this, you see all these videos, like people seeing heroes that look like them and like getting just very excited about it. So
yeah,
this kind of stuff is very important. It's extremely important.
For sure. And I feel like when you think about just like how many like out gay characters there are, specifically in superhero comics, but then you whittle that down to out characters of color, like that number shrinks significantly. And one of the things I've been very tried to really keep in mind, writing the story, is listening to a lot of people who grew up reading comics and really had to look hard to find people that they related to and could identify with, and really just kind of had to like read deep between the lines to see, like, I think they're trying to say maybe possibly that this person could maybe be gay. So I'm just going to take that, I'm going to latch on to that, because that's as close as I've been able to get. So, Jackson not only being, a queer character, but being very open about it and very out about it, and not, it's not something that you have to come into and say, I wonder what they're trying to say about this character. It's like, no, it's all there, like nothing is being hidden away.
Yeah.
And I think that's great, because there's tons of queer Black kids out there that probably could use a superhero like Jackson. So hopefully this is something that they can pick up and enjoy.
I do love that DC has also kept that across the lines. Like in Young Justice, they did that original graphic novel that was about him having a romance with I can't remember the character's name, but it's just who this character is, and I'm so glad that they just leave it at that.
Yeah.
All right, so on to our next hard-hitting question. Would you rather control water or fish?
It's tricky because I try to think about with questions like this, like what is going to be my daily use of this power, right? Like, what am I really going to do day in and day out? I'm in Baltimore and we do have the aquarium.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that's
just go down to the inner harbor and you just,
Well, the thing about the harbor is nobody really knows what's in there, and
that is true.
I don't want to call something, long dormant, back to life, and
just from the runoff from some of the dormant factories, the tire factory.
I think I've gone on record of saying that I hate crabs, like, as a creature, because they're born with, like, their body is born in full body armor and their hands are scissors. Yeah. Nothing that is born that way has good intentions. It's built for war. So, like, now that you say that, I don't want you to be able to talk to fish. I'll be honest. I don't want whatever is down in the Chesapeake Bay to come up.
It's a real concern. I mean, we see the harbor change color sometimes, and it's kind of like, what's up? What's going on in there? So
I mean, I live on Kent Island, so I'm surrounded by it.
Hey, Harbor, are you okay today?
Yeah, I don't know.
See, you're a little blue.
Yeah, or green. So I guess
brown. It's something different every time.
Yeah, I guess I'd go with control water. I feel like there's probably some good uses for that just in the everyday situation. I don't know if I need to make like swords or anything like that, like Jackson does, but I could probably find more practical uses than talking to fish or
coffee maker.
Fish. Yeah, just like, or never have to worry about filling up the cat water bowl, or getting water in the tea kettle, or all kinds of cooking and drinking. And there's probably in my daily life more uses. If I live by the ocean, maybe. And I guess it depends on how you define fish, right? Because like dolphins technically aren't fish. So I don't know if
Aquaman can talk to them.
Yeah, I guess, are we saying maybe like sea life in general? Like that might be cool, like being able to communicate with like a sea tortoise, or like maybe like a dolphin. Because I've seen, and doing research for the story, I've learned a lot of things about fish, and just I mean, I guess I've learned that they do make sound underwater. They've put microphones down there, and there's a lot of weird underwater sounds that they've picked up, and also just the different kinds of, like, we still don't know what is down deep, at the bottom of the ocean.
The ocean's scary.
They keep finding new fish, and it's just like, these things are very weird, and I don't
know.
There's
more.
I think there's ones that we think that were extinct, and they're still there.
Yeah.
Everything is still down there. But I have, on the ability to talk to sea life, do you think Aquaman watches like movies like Finding Nemo and thinks he's the only one who can understand it?
Or he's like correcting it.
Oh.
Fish planing.
He's doing the subtitles. Yeah, it's very interesting because like they've done a lot of different iterations of Aquaman's power, ranging from full on I can have a conversation with a seahorse to what is the current iteration under Kelly Sue, which is called The Call, where it's less of a I'm having a conversation with a fish and more of a I'm sending out like a telepathic signal and message, either asking for help or, asking for them to either assist me in battle or like help me find somebody or something, to what I I didn't really understand what it was in the Aquaman movie or with him in Justice League because, you know, he has that line where it's like, I don't talk to fish. But then he doesn't really, in Justice League, he doesn't really do it because they're never around any water. In Aquaman, like there's the big battle at the end where he gets all the fish to come and they fight Orm, but like, yeah, it's kind of because even in the Aquaman movie, there's the part where he's fighting Orm and Atlantis, and like a octopus is playing drums.
Topo.
And yeah, I really have questions about like, is Atlantis like the Flintstones, where like fish just do
mundane
like,
tasks.
yeah.
So wait, are you telling me that like those underwater like cars, they're actually just paddling their feet?
Maybe.
Well, did you see they have like a one ship that was like just a turtle? Like,
Yeah.
It just looks like a turtle. Which is awesome.
I mean, those exist in real life. Korean turtle ships are awesome.
Really?
Sorry. Yeah, I've talked to you about this.
Cool.
They're like shells.
I believe it.
Yeah. All right. So this next question comes from Chris from Play Comics Podcast. If there was an Aquaman video game, because there's certainly not one that does not exist, but would you want to work on it? And what era of Aquaman or any of the squad would you want to be in to have a starring role in it?
Ooh, I mean, I'd love to work on any video game. So this sounds great. My memories of Aquaman in video games are there was a DC fighting game in the 90s that was kind of like a Marvel versus Capcom ripoff that had Aquaman with the hook hand.
For Sega Genesis?
I think so.
Task Force.
Yes.
So it's not great.
It wasn't great. I mean, it was one like there's a lot of games I remember playing in the 90s that seemed fun because I was like 8. Mm-hmm. And then I played later and I was like, oh no, this isn't good. I remember there was a DC game similar to Marvel Ultimate Alliance in the like mid 2000s.
Yeah, it was like for PSP, right?
It was on console too. I think it was.
Yeah.
Did I play it on either?
I had it for PSP.
Yeah, and had it for PSP.
Yeah.
There was there was also one of it for Game Boy, but it was just the Flash. I had that.
Oh, okay.
Now I need to find it. Justice League Heroes.
Yeah. So Aquaman was in that. He was pretty cool in that. Obviously, like the DC Universe game, and then he's been in Injustice. I'm trying to think because I mean it could be cool, right, to have an underwater game. Probably the only underwater games I can really think of is Echo the Dolphin, which probably isn't what you want this game to be like. But like like the Insomniac Spider-Man game is a lot of fun, and a lot of that fun is the travel. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how you make the swimming fun. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like
seahorses, turtles.
You know, like I could see like a race element. You know, like a lot of those games have like a timed element where you have to do something or like chase something. So I could see that happening. I don't know. The combat is also something because it's underwater. I mean, I guess when you get into like Atlantis or other places where you can just walk around, like, you know, you could just do typical combat. Aquaman has cool powers though. I mean, besides just the ability to communicate with fish. I mean, he's got the trident, which is a cool weapon. He's got if you're talking about different eras, right? Because you've got Peter David Aquaman that's got the hook for a hand. Jeff Johns Aquaman was very cool. Yeah, I'm running this game through in my head, and I'm trying to figure out.
So, there was an Aquaman game.
Oh wow! Okay.
And it was for I think it was
Xbox.
PlayStation 2. Oh, no, it was just Xbox because I couldn't get it until later. It was very, very bad. It was like Superman 64 levels of bad.
Oh yeah, that's was what was in my mind when I was thinking about an Aquaman game.
Yeah, I'll send you some videos because it's Hook Hand, Peter David Aquaman.
Okay. Wow, they made an Aquaman. That's just
First Crush is a dolphin Aquaman.
It's very strange to think, because there was a point in time, right, where like every superhero was a thing, and like they made a Hulk video game, several Hulk video games.
Those were pretty cool though.
Yeah, there was, there's been several Iron Man games, and just different like superhero team games. But like Aquaman, it's not that Aquaman isn't cool. He's very cool, but was not the kind of hero that I think people were like, I want to play a video game about just Aquaman, like Aquaman as part of a larger team, because he's always like, whenever there is a major DC video game, I assume Aquaman was in DC versus Mortal Kombat. Was he in that?
I don't think so, actually. Jeez.
Really?
No, no, he wasn't in it. Shazam was in it.
Oh.
Furthering Dan's resentment of Shazam.
Yep. Because for the longest time, you would either get Shazam or you would get Aquaman. You wouldn't get both.
Okay.
Which is interesting because we don't really consider those two like super popular characters, but like back in the day, they were like the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like you would, it's to step into these waters and kind of further this argument in a game. I feel like Aquaman, or not Aquaman, I feel like Shazam and Superman would be redundant.
Yeah.
I feel like you'd want one or the other.
But you're forgetting the key word, magic.
Right. But
that's it. That's the only difference. And thunder.
Yeah. This roster is just, if you think it, they're there, but nothing above that. It's like Deathstroke, all the regular Motley Crue.
All right.
But yeah, he got in Injustice 2, you got to play as Black Manta, which was and the Ninja Turtles, because you ever wanted to fight the Ninja Turtles against Black Manta, you can do that now.
Of course.
In the sewer level.
So, the relationship between Jackson and Black Manta has been kind of stressed at best. Do you think having the knowledge that his father is a supervillain has played any factor in him wanting to be a hero?
Yeah, as we stated before, it's a very complicated relationship. And this issue and the next issue dig into that a little bit more, because it's one, Black Manta's tried to kill him several times at this point, right? And that's not a typical father-son relationship. So I mean, it's not even like a thing where it's like, oh, my dad's kind of a jerk and like, I don't have a great time around him. It's like, this is a person that's actively tried to kill me and my mom and multiple people that I know. So it's not even like there's the thought that there could be reconciliation, but also just like tepid agreement between them is kind of out the window. But there's also this thing of anybody would love to have a great relationship with their parents, a great relationship with their family. And because he's kind of been denied that by his father, for a time was denied that from his mother, because she was, just trying to keep him safe and away from Black Manta. So, she wasn't answering any questions, and she wasn't really, letting him, go out into the world and do stuff. She was just doing her best to try to keep him out the way. He's kind of had no family really in that way, like, had ideas of where he came from and ideas of where he belonged and ideas of, just kind of what was possible for him. So, looking at Black Manta as this horrible human being supervillain, I think that there's definitely a urge and a desire for him to not end up that way. And it's interesting, just, real world extrapolations into it, when you look at you know, in the African American community, but just typically in general, when you have family members, parents, cousins, uncles, etc., who have been to jail and who have been incarcerated, you know, the rates for the, you know, upcoming generation increase, right? Like they've been exposed to that. That's kind of part of their family, and you know, even the idea, you know, not in that case specifically, but when you think about people who are descendants of people who have done terrible things, right? When you think about people who have come from families where like somebody did something horrible, unspeakable, and you're the son, the daughter of that person, you know, the idea of maybe not as evil genetic, right? But like, how does that trauma pass down through generations? How does that kind of play out, you know, throughout these stories? And in this two-part story in particular, Jackson also gets to meet his grandfather, Black Manta's father. You know, they're kind of together on this mission. But if you've been reading the Kelly Sue run, Black Manta's father was recreated as an artificial intelligence and put into like a giant like mech. And so Jackson is piloting this mech that is inhabited with this kind of meticulous
mech.
Yeah, this kind of meticulous recreation of his grandfather. And you know, you get a little bit more insight into that relationship too, where it's just kind of like, if you're thinking about, well, where did Black Manta come from? And like, why is he the way that he is? You know, Jackson kind of gets a little bit of insight into that with his grandfather, who, you know, is coming from a generation of like, you know, to be a man, to be tough, you know, to be strong, you know, you have to present a certain way, you have to be a certain way, and was trying to imprint these lessons onto Black Manta, and it went horribly wrong, you know, because Black Manta took all the wrong elements of the lessons that his grandfather was trying to teach, and now Jackson is kind of dealing with two generations of kind of toxic masculinity and having to process that. And I think there is this idea of, you know, his family name, because it's interesting that his mother took Black Manta's last name, right? So Jackson is Jackson Hyde, you know, and Black Manta is David Hyde. So like he still has that part of his father with him, and it's kind of a struggle for him to say, you know, what does that last name mean to me, and like what do I want that to mean to other people, right? Like how can I take, you know, a lot of the stuff that has been handed down to me through my grandfather, from my father, and turn that into something positive. So, you know, Black Manta, not great, not a great person, definitely not somebody you want to idolize or look up to, and you know, but still will forever be part of Jackson's family and Jackson's story, you know. But I think he's looking at that and looking at the choices that his father has made, and recognizing that I don't want to be associated with that in any way, you know. So like, I want to make my own story, I want to make my own path, and Black Manta is definitely a catalyst, not in a positive way, but something that has definitely pushed him towards, you know, wanting to be the hero that he's trying to be.
So with all of that, this is your first ongoing writing, like your the big two like type thing. Did you approach this any differently writing it than you would your own independent stuff?
Yes, it's kind of it's interesting because I do have experience following Kelly Sue's footsteps, because I did a story in the Bitch Planet triple feature, and so, you know, that was an experience of, here's this world that's already been created, and a world that people really, 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 really love, and so coming into that as somebody who's, you know, definitely a huge fan of Bitch Planet, but you know, in my mind trying to say like, I don't want to mess this up, right? Like I want to do this right, and I want to, you know, honor and keep all the things that people love about this book, but also be able to tell my own story. And I think that experience has helped me here, where Kelly Sue has set up, this wonderful story of Aquaman and Mera and, now their child, but also Jackson, being a part of that larger and growing family, and, trying to find his own family and make his own way. And, in a similar way, me looking at all of the things that she set up so beautifully and figuring out, okay, how can I tell the story in a way that is existing within, the structure that she set up, is existing within, some of the threads and things that she's already, set up here, and kind of carry the things that people like about this book. Like it, you don't want to come in and just be like, well, this is how I would do Aquaman, and just like, it's a weird, 2-part interruption where people are like, what's going on? Like, this is nothing like the book I've been reading, these last couple of months. And, it is a departure in the sense that, there's a whole big storyline going on about a wedding right now. And, this has ties to that, but also is kind of a little detour before coming back to that. So I looked at it as almost like, Kelly Sue is passing me the baton, right? So I need to run this leg of the race. But, when I pass her the baton back, there's all this other stuff now that she has to work with. So, it's a little different in that you can't do whatever you want, right? There are things that are already in place. There's a whole DC universe that's already set up. And so there's a lot of toys to play with, and like a lot of cool things to get into. Like there's some surprises, I will say, in these 2 parts that I hope a lot of people will be, interested in and want to see those threads carried out later. But I, really tried to match a lot of the energy and the voice and stuff that Kelly Sue had set up, while at the same time trying to do what I do, and bring my own voice and experience to the story. So I think there's generally a lot of that in the superhero world, where whether you're coming onto a book, for a short stint like I am, or, you're kind of being handed the baton from, somebody who just wrapped up a run and now, it's your turn to do it. And figuring out, okay, what is it that people like about these characters? What is it that people were into about the story? How can I continue that? While not just doing like a cheap imitation of, what came before, but still, bringing that energy, bringing that excitement, bringing that pathos to everything. So it's been a lot of fun, and like working with the whole team, like Marco Santucci's doing the art for this, and it looks amazing. And I really can't wait for people to see it, because Marco has done a lot of cool stuff. Like I think you're going to see, just not only in his design for some of the characters, but also his design of Zebel is really cool, and I hope is something that kind of sticks in the DC universe moving forward. So it's definitely different than just coming in and saying, okay, here's all my ideas and here's all my things, because also, getting to work with the great editors on the story, like, they know not only more about, Aquaman in specific than I do, but they're also knowledgeable about some of the other things, like just some of the minutia that you get into, talking with editors and people who are kind of, steeply immersed in this world. Like we kind of pitched around coming up with different social media stuff. Because there's a line about Instagram, which we were able to kind of get through. But DC has its own in-world social media stuff, you know what I mean? So even if you're just like, oh, I want to name drop like, Twitter, well, it's called Chirper in the DC universe. So, there's certain things that you have to kind of keep in mind. And so that's been really cool too, just kind of getting a peek at, not only how everything works, but just
inside baseball.
Yeah, seeing how all of this stuff connects, right? Like as a bigger universe, the DC universe, and not only where the story is taking place within like the Aquaman world, but also like the larger DC world and all of that other stuff. So yeah, it's been amazing. I've had a lot of fun.
Well, that was a great answer. So, I mean, it's been great to have you back, Jordan.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
You can find me on the internet, as it seems like this is where we all are now, as of late. So I'm on Twitter at JRSosa18, JRSOSA18. Same on Instagram. I have a website. I need to update it. jclarkcomics.squarespace.com. But those are the main places if you're looking to just say hi or see what I'm working on.
Do you have any other projects coming up other than Aquaman that you wanted to talk about?
I've got some stuff that I can't talk
Secrets.
about that are projects in the works. But I'm definitely trying to get more projects out into the world. Hopefully, those will be things that solidify soon in the future, and then I would love to come back on Super Sons, get that there. I'm trying to run up my appearances. So
We're gonna have to get you a coat.
Yeah, I want a patch, I want a pin, all that stuff. So
Aquaman will be out on August 18th. It's issue 62. You can get that on Comixology, your local comic book shop. If you don't have a local comic book shop, thirdeyecomics.com. You can find them on any social media, and they will hook you up.
That's also where I actually met Jordan.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
So,
for my bright pink TKO hoodie.
Jake's the only one that's met Jordan. It's fine. One day
we're best friends now.
Yeah.
One day. Yeah, I'm out in the cold watching from the rain. So you can find us on Twitter at DC Super Sons, on the Instagram at Super Sons Pod. You can find me at Dan the McMahon. I literally forgot my own name. And Jake, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Jake Likes Otters.
And catch us in 2 weeks. Same bat time, same bat channel.